go. Recording started. Okay, so welcome everyone. Another webinar by the Financial Advisor Mentorship. And this time around, I've got a special guest. He's called Asger Lindholdt. He's a speaking and presentation coach, and he typically helps academics and solopreneurs tell their story, so he not only informs the audience, but also leaves a lasting impact. He's a speaker trainer for TEDx Frederiksberg, and is based in Copenhagen, Denmark. And I'm especially excited because last we had a webinar focusing on CV and kind of interview skills, and this time around is more presentation skills. So when you are successful in an interview, or let's say if you're already in a job and would like some sort of tips and techniques to help with being client facing, Asger is a perfect coach. So without waiting any further, I'll hand it over to you, Asger.
Well, thanks, Ben, and thank you for all of you participating. Those are really big words, Ben. The perfect coach. Let me see if I can just live up to half of that, and I'll be pretty happy. So, let's see what happens. So today, we got about an hour to go. And so I was thinking the first 20 minutes is about how to really make it a great interview, because this is a critical skill to have. Even if you do have a job, even if you are a solopreneur, even if you have your own company, there will be times where you will be interviewed, maybe for bigger jobs. So it is a critical skill to have. Plus, you might be able to learn something if you come to a time where you have to hire people. So yeah, we'll dive into that for about 20 minutes, do some tips and tricks so you can really crush it in your next job interview. And then I'll do about 20 minutes with public speaking. How can you make an fabulous speech? Because today's world, it is so easy to get your advice out there. Just look into the camera and make a video, and you can put your message out there and you can reach millions of people. It's no longer where you come to a room with 20, 30, 50 people, or even, you can reach more people than there are in a stadium. But the challenge is you are competing with so many more people at the moment. So you really got to up your game if you want people to listen to that. And then I agree with Ben. We're going to do a Q&A in the end, about 20 minutes. So we're going to have like 3 parts: job interview, presentation skills, and then Q&A. But you're welcome also to ask questions along the way. Maybe there are things I don't explain because I might not be the perfect presentation coach. But anyway, let's see what happens. And I want to welcome you, Ilse, and Fohad as well. So we haven't talked before this webinar. So welcome to you guys as well. And I could understand on Ben that earlier you've had a webinar on how to write your CV and your application. So let's have a look at how do you crush it during the interview. So you've written your application, your CV, you've done the traditional thing. That means you're called for an interview. And since I've seen that, that means you are qualified for the job. Most likely you'll get called in because they see your CV and they think this person can solve the challenges they have. They might call in, 3 to 5 people. So the big thing is really the likability. Sure, they're going to test you. If it's hot air on your CV, you'll be talking about the job, the challenges, how you can solve them. But about 70%, maybe even 80%, is about, can they see themselves with you those hours? Do they like to have a cup of coffee with you? Do they like having lunch with you? Maybe you are working many hours together, and it's critical that they like actually hanging out with you. So once you have that in the back of your mind, remember, it's more than just showing your qualifications that you're really good. It's also, it's the chemistry. So that's even probably a bigger part. So before you come to the interview, the most important thing is you do your homework. You do your homework because you want to think about, what do they need to know? They want to know certain things, like how you can solve the problems for them. So the interview is not so much about you. It's actually more about how can you help them? How can you solve their problems? Because that's what they're looking for. So you want to put yourself in their shoes and think, okay, if I was in their shoes, what would be some of the things I was looking for? So sometimes people that apply, they talk a lot about themselves. Oh, I applied to this job because I would like to improve my skills on this and this and this. Well, okay, you can have a little bit about that, I would say, to the end, but typically the answer should be about how you solve those problems. So come well prepared, bring a CV, have a notebook so you can take notes along the way. And yeah, that's how it works. So you do your homework, you read up on the job application. So you're really crystal clear on what are their problems. You should know, obviously, from your application, but you want to go through it one more time so you know that, and you can use that in their pitch. You can use that when they are asking questions. These are the things they're looking for. You want to check out the company's website. You know, is there something going on? What are some of the challenges, major projects? Are they laying off people? Are they hiring? You know, there'll be certain information on, hopefully on the web page, and that will help you ask questions during the talk. And they might even ask you how much you know about the company. And if you don't know very much, at least the available information, it doesn't send off a good sign. So you definitely want to do your homework. You probably want to go on LinkedIn, check out some of the profiles of the people potentially hiring you, and also people in the department. Check out who are they, what kind of skills do they have, who are they? And that might also help you because, oh, this is just a normal human being working in this department. And you can, you know, get their names and see. So really make yourself familiar with the style in the company, who are there. That really helps your nerves as well. Plus, you will have much better chances to answer the questions. So let's have a look at how things will typically go during an interview. And now you have to correct me if things go differently in the UK, because I'm using my experience here from Denmark, but I'm assuming it's fairly similar. So you want to come early, but not too early. You don't want to come Ben early. He was saying he's always super early, but he's smart enough. So he doesn't join, he doesn't come in too early. So if you're at a physical interview, I would say come 5 to 15 minutes early. That's kind of, you know, a good time. If it's online, you also want to come early. I would say maybe 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. So if there are some technical problems with logging in, you never know, clicking that link, for some strange reason, that might not always be the easiest thing. Things can go wrong. Then you can send them an email. Hey, you know, I'm trying to log in. I don't know what's happening. That's much better than being 5-10 minutes late, sending an email, because you're showing you're professional. You actually were trying to get in there. There might be something wrong with the link, whatever could happen. So come in 5 minutes early. Plus, if it's online, most people won't join at the same time. Like before this webinar we had, people had logged in at different times, which gave me an opportunity to do some small talking and connect a little bit, for instance, with Steven and Susanna. So yeah, for you guys, we can chat afterwards. So that's a really nice opportunity for you to get to know them a little bit before you really get started. Whereas if you have the physical interview, you'll typically be waiting, and you have a chance to small talk while you're going up to the room where you'll be doing the actual talk. So come in and be prepared. Have some small talk questions ready. Some things you could talk about that are light. You could ask them, where they're sitting, whatever. Oh, I saw an interesting project you got that sounds really interesting for you. So really, you know, keep it positive. And you don't always have to, in a small talk, give them questions, because questions can sometimes be quite needy. I'm not saying you don't ask them, but a statement is a little bit more, shows a little bit more confidence, and in a way where you say, oh, that's really interesting, the project I saw on your webpage, rather than, oh, could you tell me a little bit about the project? Then you already, you know, you want to take something from them. So keep it, you know, a few questions, a few statements, that kind of mixes up things. So do some small talking. That's very important, like I talked about in the beginning, because it's a lot about likability, the skill, right? You don't want to come in and have some really super boring person work with that. So be ready to that. So the job interview already starts when you're small talking. Then you'll probably come for the interview, and what happens then is most likely, if there are a few people, 3, maybe 4 people, they'll probably talk a little bit about themselves, a little bit about the company, a little bit about the position, kind of make you feel at home and make you kind of relaxed. And then once I've done that, you 90% of the time, maybe even more, you're going to get the question. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You are at one point going to get that question or not. So I'd say in those, and you should probably have 2 to 3 minutes where you do your pitch, and you got to know what you want to say in those 2 to 3 minutes, because that's the time where you get the job. If you nail that one, the job is yours. Now the next 58 minutes, that's where you lose the job. You can mess up in the 58 minutes afterwards, but you get that right, small talk and that question, boom, the job is yours. Just don't screw up. I know that's a little bit, put things in a box, but it's nice for you to have the overview. You really want to practice that one. So what should you include in your pitch? It's got to be concise, it's going to be short and really clear. So I would have something that leads up to the job, maybe something from your education, your previous jobs, and you want to put in results. Results, speak the truth. Say that you have a proven track record for many of the things they're looking for. As I could see in your job application, and as I've written in my CV, I could see you're looking for this and this. And in my previous jobs, these are things I've worked with, I've experienced. I don't know what you're doing, but if you're doing financial planners, you could say, I have my clients, they used to have, making X amount of money on their investments. Once they came to me, they got 5 to 10% more. This is my average, whatever, something that can really show that you can deliver. So it's not just hot air. I'm really good at this, but if you're speaking numbers, if you have a few stories, it's also more credible than just saying, I'm good at this. So that's your pitch, really. You got to nail that one. And then most likely it will be just chit chat back and forth. They're going to ask some questions. So also what you want to do is you want to think about what are the common questions. They're all out there on the internet. You Google common job interview questions. You probably know most of them already if you've been to 3 or 4, because they mainly ask the same kind of questions. A typical question could be, for instance, what is your biggest failures or flaws, right? So you want to prepare, how do you answer a question like that? And there are plenty of videos on YouTube. There are plenty of stuff out on Google to check that out. And you want to find something that resonates with you. Like, for instance, my personal opinion is many people say, just say something that's bad, but in reality, it's good. And I'm not a big fan of that, for instance, because we know it's kind of lying if you say, I'm a perfectionist. I get things done so well that I tend to spend a little bit more time than I need to. I'd rather have, just share something honest, but something that does not make you not get the job. For instance, one time I went to a job interview and they asked me, what are you not so good at? And I said, this timesheet thing, I used to always have to do it. The rule in the company was do it Friday. And a lot of times, Friday afternoon, it's not the thing I get done. But you know what? I get it done Monday morning. And if it is super, super critical, I will get it done Friday. But most of the times I actually get it done Monday. That's not a big thing. People can mainly live with that. And if not, maybe the job isn't for you anyway. Another thing could be sharing something that you're not so good at, but you show you have a plan for it. Let's say you aren't so good at Excel. You say, Excel is not a tool I've been using quite a lot, but I bought this online course. I've already done the first few lessons and I'm feeling I'm improving a lot on this. So you can expect me to be pretty good within a couple of months in this program, because I could see that was on the job application. So if you show that you have a plan, that is okay in most cases. So make sure that if you have things that are failures or flaws, show them you have a plan, or make sure it's not that critical. But I'd say be honest, because the rest of the things you share, if they can feel, okay, Ilsa, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, she's honest, she's sharing the truth, then everything else you share gets much more credibility. And when you maybe share your good results rather than I'm just good at everything. Nobody is, and it's not likable. Well, it maybe uses, I know you're shaking your head. I don't know. So how do you practice this? I would say do some role playing. If you don't have anybody at your home, call somebody, have a friend, ask them the questions, because you really want to practice this, because it's not enough just saying it by yourself. You start with that, do that a couple of times, but there is something when you say it to someone else. Maybe they have a follow-up question you didn't know. And the more times we do things, the more it gets ingrained in the brain. That's why people that are really good at something, they keep repeating. Cristiano Ronaldo, I don't know how many penalty kicks he's trained, free kicks. He keeps going, that guy, right? And you should be doing the same thing, because when you get under stress, you have a little bit less, you can say capability will lose a little bit, because we're maybe tensed up and, if we're a little bit nervous. But if you really hone this down, you're going to make it. So practice with role playing. And now, one of the key important things is once you get a question, because they will ask you questions, a really good way is to answer with a story rather than saying, yes, I'm really good at this, or I took a course. You can share. We had a client last year. He came to me and he said, you know what, I don't know how to invest my money. I don't know how to save enough money. And he said, you know what, it's not so much about saving the money. It's about doing the right investment or whatever. You share a story. And then the guy left, oh, really? So for me, it's a lot about educating my customers rather than just giving the thing they need. Whatever your story is. So stories are amazing, because basically our brain works through stories, and they will remember that. So make sure that you have some good stories lined up that you can share to back it up. Yeah. And then I would say, once you've had this chit chat back and forth, probably they've mainly been asking questions. They will probably ask you, do you have any questions? And I would say at that time, it's good if you have some questions, because it's slightly like a dating situation. If you are too needy and say, you know what, I want you, they're probably going to run away. Now, you want to show interest, obviously, that you are interested. But you also want to say, you know what, tell me a little bit about why should I be interested? Maybe you have a job already. So you don't want to come across as too needy, as to, I just want this job no matter what. So ask them a few questions. Maybe one question could be, what's the ideal candidate for you? And then they have to, share those things that they see as the ideal candidate. Keep it positive. You could also share, ask them, what is the thing you like the most about this company or working in this department? So then they get a chance to say something positive, and you actually get a picture of what is working well in this department. So have a few questions lined up, and especially you want to ask the questions if you aren't sure you want the job, which is good to have in the back of your mind. You know what, I don't necessarily need this job 100%. Then you definitely want to ask those questions. That kind of evens out the balance a little bit. And from a psychological perspective, we know that if they have to invest a little bit, it's more likely that they want you. So make sure that they invest a little bit and they have to do a little pitch as well. And then you come to the final part, which is wrapping up things. And, ask them a thing, say that it was a pleasant interview. You really liked it. You found the job interesting and you're looking forward to hear from them, and ask them, when can I expect to hear from you? Something along those lines. So you kind of, leave a good impression in the end. So that's typical the interview. I hope that was useful. It's a very short introduction to the job interview thing, but really you are pretty much always doing the same things. And the thing is really preparing, knowing your answer to tell us a little bit about yourself, having prepared all the other questions. And if there are questions you don't know the answer to, well, take your time to think about it and then give an answer. It's okay to need to think a little bit. Actually, it shows that you're human. It shows that you care about this and you're not just some machine battling off. So yeah, we can take any questions later on the job interview skills. Let me see, was it useful or not? Some replies back there. Could you use it, Susanna, Ilsa, and Steven saying we're on track. How about you, Ben? You there with us? Awesome, good. Fantastic, you like it. It's very, very short. So we know 1 hour. And, All right, we come to my favorite part, favorite part, which is public speaking. This skill is so critical. You got to have this if you want to reach the masses, because it's not, you can do one-to-one, that's fine. And I understand some people want to do one-to-one because it is more intimate, it is more personalized. But if you want to reach more people, speaking is critical. And actually, if you become a good speaker, you can give more one-to-one sessions because you can reach more people. And I would say a medium like LinkedIn is fabulous to have, and YouTube is great. You can also use it to show your clients. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to have tons of views, but you can say here are, a couple of sessions or role plays or whatever you're doing can show you, because you show who you are. It's so much more emotional to show a video than an article. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with articles. They're great. They're typically packed a little bit with information, but you can really get them with the video and with the speaking. So one of the most important things when you're speaking is your nerves. It's that fear of public speaking. What are they going to think about you? How are they going to perceive you? Are they going to like you? Are they going to boo you out? What's going to happen? And we just talked about it, Ben, before we joined here. And he said, oh, I was a little bit nervous too. And Ben said, yeah, I get a little bit nervous too. Let's see if somebody shows up. Our brain is wired to think about the catastrophe, the fears, because that's how we survive. Life is a game with one life. So if you are overdone, that's it. It's not a computer game where you have 20, 30 lives. So you are automatically, you want to make sure that you survive and do well. And most people say, you know what? There's nothing to fear in public speaking, but actually there is. There is a real fear in it, because it's not maybe a physical threat you're facing, but there's a social fear. If you get up in your job and you speak, and your speech wasn't very good and they didn't like it and nobody listened, your social status in that company will decrease. On the other hand, you can also really heighten it a lot. And I would say, even if you should deliver a speech that wasn't perceived that well, you have plenty of opportunities to get better at it and improve. So in the long run, I would say there's only things to gain. But if you take it as a single event, you might lose something, especially if you are new to it. So how do you handle the fear? One of the best ways for me is breathing. Breathing, because it's the thing that works the fastest. If we're nervous, we tend to breathe up here in our chest and breathe really fast, right? And if you are calm, collected, and feeling good, once you had that great dinner, you're in that good company and you're full, you're like, you get that air all the way down, and you breathe in with your belly and you relax, and it just works really fast on the automatic nervous system. So if you are having nerves, make sure you get some breath that goes all the way down, and your stomach, it should come out. Yeah, ladies, it got to come out. So yeah. And also for us men, sometimes we, so you can put your hand on your belly. You could actually try this right now. Just put your hand on your belly, and when you breathe in, get your breath through the nose, because that's what the nose is for. So you do. Can you feel it? The stomach is coming out. The abdominals coming out. That's the right way. And usually you want to breathe out through the nose, because that's also what it's meant to be. But the time where we relax is on the breath out. That's where we relax. We get stressed on the inhale, when the snake's coming, we that's when we get stressed. So in order to prolong the breath out, you can use your mouth, and then you just make this like a little straw. That means you can, blow out air for much longer. So I'd say if you want to relax yourself, and you can use it if you, have difficulty sleeping, take a breath in, and then take the breath out twice as long, pretty much twice as long. If you do that, and you can take your arms out as well, and you can kind of open up the rib cage, and you get opened up. And that really works well. It can have a really good impact on you. You can use it before the job interview, before your speaking situation, whatever it is. Maybe you had a long day at work. You just want to come home to your family feeling energized and vibrant. It's a really good tool. You can use it. You can use it in the car, and you can even use it in the job interview if probably they aren't paying attention. If you do that, just keep it a little bit light. So you can do that breathing and just you get your nerves under control. That's one of my favorite ways. Another one is the power pose. Anybody heard of the power pose? Power pose, Fahad, Susanna? No, you're gonna get this. This is great. There's a study done by one TED. Oh, Fahad, you giving a thumbs up? Awesome. Amy Cuddy, TED Talk. TED Talk, right? TED Talk. I think it's in the top 5. She talks about how our body can affect our mood. And she says power pose. This is a power pose when you take your arms out. If you feel like a winner, you don't feel like, if you're a loser, you don't stand like this, right? When you're feeling good, you can do this. Usain Bolt crossing the 100-meter line, he puts his arm up, right? Soccer player just making a goal, you do this. And you do this outside, right? Not during the interview. But before you hit the stage, you go to the interview, you get this one up. And I've actually added a little bit to this, and you can put in a scream, right? You can say something really positive. You can be like, I'm bold, I'm brave, I'm beautiful. You get those, positive thoughts. You can close your eyes if that helps you. That helps me. And then you get that energy. And that tends to, if you're a little bit down in energy, that gives you more energy, kind of gives you up, whereas the other one kind of relaxes you a little bit. So you can play with them, how you need your energy level to be. Obviously, you don't want to be going through the roof, but on the other hand, you don't be maybe too relaxed either. You want to be, having this excitement. I'd say, if you're a speaker and your audience is on a scale from 1 to 10, and let's say they're on a 4, or slightly higher, you probably want to be on a 7. You want to be more energy. If they're a 7, you probably want to be a 9, right? So, but if they're on a 3, you don't want to be a 10. But you're not matching their energy. So be slightly higher energy and kind of pace them to get where you want them to go. Right. So that's all about handling the fears. That's a big, big thing, because once you got that handle, you start to be natural. You start to be who you are. Things will come out the way you want them to be. There are so many speaker trainers out there that are teaching you bad advice. They're telling you, you can go on YouTube, you can find professional speaker trainers that are telling you how to have your, I'm just standing up, how to have your hands. Oh, when you're speaking, you should have your hands out here. And when you're gesturing, you got to do this. And, you got to put your thumbs out here. Or when you come on stage, you want to have your palms so they can see you. That's not good advice for several reasons. Because you're not naturally doing it. It should come from a place where it's natural to you. Once you start feeling good, you are in a good state, you will automatically do these things. You will gesture. This is the nature of us. It helps us communicate to do that. But if you have to think a lot about your body language, it's kind of like stiff, because what research shows is that we move our body slightly before we actually think it. So once the word comes out, you have moved your body accordingly, slightly, like microseconds before. But if you, on the other hand, start thinking, oh, I should do this with my body, it becomes unnatural. It's like, have you seen those speakers where like, there's something wrong here. It's not really him or her. There's something odd about it. You don't want to be that one. So instead, I'd rather say, get in a good state, get in a good mood, and then, just be yourself, gesture like how you need to gesture. It's going to come. A good advice could be, which I also use from my trainers, is just, if you don't know how to get started, just take your little pinky and hold it here, and then things will keep going, right? But I'm not saying put your hand out here or do that thing. Just be yourself and get in a good state. That's really the best thing to do. All right, we got a few more minutes. And another thing that's critically important when you are speaking is your eye contact. Eye contact with the audience. A lot of mistakes out there again from common advice. A lot of people will teach you this. You got to look at your audience in the eyes all the time. You got to have eye contact with one, then you move to the next one, then the next one. You find, different people in the room. Sure, you want to have eye contact with people, but if you have too much, you can actually, it's quite intimidating if you have too much. Plus, our eyes are not programmed to have eye contact all the time. We use our eyes to collect information. So for instance, if you want to collect a picture, you'll typically look up like, oh yeah, for instance, I could say, okay, think about your car. Just think about, you try to memorize the picture of your car right now. Right? So I can see that on you. You'll say you're moving your eyes, right? So could you feel that? The thumbs up if you're good. Yeah. So if you only do a look at the audience, you are not gathering the pictures that you need to gather in order to speak. So the thing is, you have trained your presentation before, so you know the pictures you want to get, so you can draw them down. So you don't have to spend time on the stage, but you do want to collect them, because if you're just all the time focusing on the eyes, it's too much. Plus, you're not going to really get those. The same thing goes with your feelings. We tend to look down if we are collecting a feeling, and the audience wants to feel you. They want to feel you. You don't want to be some machine reading PowerPoint slides, as you can see on slide this and this and this. You want to be like, yeah, so I came home, and then, my wife said, or whatever it is. You want to take the time to feel. And once you've felt, then you share. But it's really hard to feel the story you're sharing, if you have to look somebody in the eyes, because then you're focused on them. You got to go internally every now and then and feel, and then you share to them. So that the rhythm is really feel and then share, right? Or you get picture and then share. So you got to have that balance. So don't worry too much if you're not having eye contact all the time with the audience. Just make sure that it's for you, either gathering pictures or gathering a feeling. And then you're going to come across as authentic, as natural, as like, yeah, it was really pleasant to hear Susanna speak or Steven speak. He just felt so natural on the stage. Does that make sense? Yeah, makes sense. Good. You're with me, guys? Really quickly, because we're going to go into Q&A in a few minutes. It's a structure. I want to give you a structure called the 5S. I hope you're with me. I'm delivering tons of stuff to you. All right. And I see you taking notes, so that's awesome. Go through those notes, and you're always welcome. If you have any doubts later, shoot me an email, whatever. But here's the structure that you can use, and I'm pretty proud of it myself because I invented it. I call it the 5S speech structure. 5 things in order to really hone, I would say, pretty much any speech. So the first thing in this 5S model is the START system. We're not going to go through everything, but the first S obviously stands for start. You want to have a great start. So different ways to deliver a great start. If it's a physical environment, I would say questions are really good. Ask your question. It could be a rhetorical question. It could be a real question. Then they have to look up. There's like, oh, okay. Actually, when Ben is speaking, I actually have to wake up from my cell phone and get going. It kind of, shakes up their world. So questions, an interesting question could get them going. Sharing a story, personal story. We love stories, so you could share a little bit of a story. That's a great way. A wonderful quote. Or you could just be like, just before I got in here, something, that happened in the room, whatever, made me reflect. It's quite natural. If you're a little bit more spontaneous, you can do that. So have a story that's interesting, that kind of gets their attention. I would say if it's online, like it's getting more and more, you probably want to check, if things are working. Can you hear me? All those kind of boring things, because let's face it, there are quite a number of times when things aren't working. So once you kind of get people, you can see things are working, you can get them engaged. If you have a seminar like this, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, or if there's a chat, leave where you're at, kind of get them engaged, where you're sitting, whatever, something very simple, so they just have to do something. That's a great way. So that's your start. Then the next phase you want to go into is struggle. Struggle is the second S, because this is what it's all about. The audience didn't come to hear you. They came to hear how to overcome some of the struggles they're having. And then the thing you're sharing is some of the struggles you faced. And then eventually, you show them the way, how you overcame that, or how you helped them, how you got through that. So share, a great way to share some struggles could be your first times. Not your first time, but your first times, right? Because usually we suck at it in the beginning. It's quite normal. You can share some failures that you've done. Maybe you've done some of the same mistakes multiple times. So like, I've done this 100 times, and I don't want you to do this 100 times. I just want you to do it no times at all, or maybe just maximum one time. And if you're really brave, you share what I call the fuck up. So those are 3 F's you can use in your way to struggle, because you will become so relatable. There are so many people in today's world that get up on stage and say, listen to me, I have the answer for you. But you haven't earned the right to give them that solution, and they aren't interested. I know it sounds pretty weird. They aren't interested in your solution in the beginning. You got to share some struggles. You got to share some vulnerability first. You got to, lead the way. It's very easy to come out and say, you just got to do this and this. But it's much harder to say, you know what, I struggle with this. I did this and these things wrong. Let me show you maybe a way that could be more beneficial to you. So become relatable by sharing your struggles and get them hooked. Because I'm like, okay, how did he solve that struggle? We want to know that. So stay probably more time than you need to, or than you think you need to, in the struggle. And then you want to have something that every presentation should have. That's a story, a personal story. That's the thing that makes you unique. So at some point you want to have a story. You could have it in the struggle phase. You could have a story. You could have it in the start phase. You could have it in the middle, but something that's unique, because, we could all go out and read 5 or 10 books on a topic and share those things and probably deliver a pretty good speech, but nobody can share your story, the thing that happened to you. And it's just so much more fun to hear a personal story. So include yourself in the presentation. So a story, that's a crucial element. And then after you have shared your amazing start, what they can gain and win, your struggle, and a personal story, then you have earned the right to share your solution. Hopefully they will be on the edge of the seat and be like, I got to get the solution. I got to know how he did that. How did he get that? He started with 0 people on his email list, and he struggled for a year, and he only had 120 after a year. But then he, maybe he shared a story about then in 2 weeks, I got 5,000 on my list. How did that happen, right? That's a way to do it. So share your solution, make it easy with actionable steps, because we want to make it implementable. If you read a book like The 7 Habits, I think it's called 7 Good Habits, then every step, every advice is very actionable. For instance, one of the things the advice is make a relationship a win-win. It's pretty easy to understand. So if I'm dealing with another person, I got to think that they got to win in this relationship, but I got to win too, right? So like, okay, that makes sense. Don't make it a win-lose. Or another one is sharpen the saw. Okay, that means we should set time aside to practice the skills we're already good at, so we're not losing that skill over time, right? So make it actionable so they can go home and do it. And then you want to end up with the selling, where you kind of wrap up things. You keep it positive. There are 2 things in life that move people forward. It's the positive thing towards something and the pain away from something. So you want to remind them of the pain. If you aren't doing these things, this is the most likely outcome for you. This is what I'm seeing with my clients. If they aren't doing this, this and this is happening. Now, if you are implementing these advice, this is the typical results I see. So now the question for you is, do you want to do this or not? Do you want to keep suffering, or do you want to move forward and try something and really implement this? Is this the time for you? The choice is only yours. So, keeping a little bit of a pitch there in the end to wrap up things. All right, this was a lot of stuff. I hope you didn't get overwhelmed with it, but we have some time now for you to ask questions, and I can go deeper into some of the things. So yeah, I will leave it to you to
thank you so much, Asger.
Okay, Ben, go ahead.
No, thank you so much. That was I've personally really enjoyed that. That was great. And feel free to unmute yourself, guys, and fire away the questions or whatever you want to find out more about.
It's clear. It's very clear that you clearly know you know your stuff.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. And also there are so many different aspects of what you covered. And I think obviously as much as we perhaps have heard a lot of the things on different channels, but you just put it really succinctly and very clearly, point by point. And there are many things I can definitely take away. So thank you.
Anything you want to, ask about in depth? Something you said, oh, okay, could you elaborate a little bit on that? Go ahead.
Well, there will be. I guess okay. I'm chewing on an information yet, so I'm still kind of just processing all the bits that I got from you.
Sure, it was a lot of stuff,
but in the good stuff. So I think definitely I think the interviewing bits are quite important at the minute, or quite interesting for me at the moment. And okay. I like the fact that the quite rigid structure that you gave, sort of step by step to do or not to do. Sort of what to say first, and the fact that you shouldn't be too kind of too needy, so don't be desperate for that job. So maybe if you can elaborate on that one.
Yeah, it is a balance. So you want to come in with a mindset that says, I'm interested in the job because you applied for it, and you come in with the mindset, there's a pretty good chance I would like this job. But you don't want to come in with a mindset, I want this job. You want to come in and say, I want to know, who are these people? Are these people I can see myself spending, I don't know how many hours do you work, but 40 hours? Or do you want to spend that amount of time with them? Is it a company where you can develop? Sure, I talked about that when you are talking about yourself, you want to talk about how you solve their problems, but in the end, you also want to know, is this really for me? So you do want to have that in. So it should be a win-win. And too many times, I actually think the people that do the interview, they are not good enough at pitching their own job. They think, he has come to us. It's safe. We will get the person if he really wants it. We get the pick. But it's not always the chance that this happens, especially if you're really, really good. You have more opportunities. So if you have that mindset, I'm not saying an arrogant mindset, an open mindset, just, you know what, I'm out searching the market, seeing what's happening. You're interesting, you keep it positive. But I also do want to know, is this really for me? I think so. But then it kind of like, okay, Ilse, she wasn't sure. And, that also shows you have high standards, that you just don't take anything. It has to be good. And people with high standards, they tend to do better. Right. So yeah, I tend, yeah.
Very much like as they are shopping, you are shopping as well. That's quite a nice balance, because in the end of the day, not everything is going to fit for everybody, isn't it? So it's just finding the right thing for an individual.
And I would say sometimes, maybe there are 3 or 4 people interviewing you and you're just one. That in somehow, in a psychological perspective, it kind of shifts the balance towards them, because they're a team. But you have to be like, you know what, you got to deliver too, and show me why this is interesting for me. So that should come with the questions. That could also be, why is this, a good opportunity for me? Why do you think this would be? Because I know there are a lot of people doing similar things. I definitely got a good impression from your talk, and it seemed very, so you keep it positive, but you challenge them a little bit. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And moving on to the public speaking, which seemed to be your passion subject.
Yeah.
It seems I kind of picked on a couple of the things from NLP a bit that you covered. So is it something that you have kind of studied and incorporate in your work?
Yeah, I actually took a NLP degree. I think it was back in, I don't know, 10, 11, 12. And so, yeah, with the I-axis and cues that we tend to look different places. And yeah, it's a very strong tool. So the advice that a lot of speaker trainers give is just have eye contact, which is, half the truth, but it's also half the, half wrong. So you definitely want to have eye contact, but too much is not good. And you probably know that if you're having a client, you're doing an NLP session, you don't want to sit right towards each other. Like that's too much. It's too strong. You want to sit so you can sit in this 45-degree angle, and you can have eye contact. You can look, but you can also look away and gather your thoughts, right? This is kind of similar to speaking. Yeah.
Do you have a YouTube channel as well, or do you have?
I do.
I'm
very famous. I have about 29 subscribers.
No, but you never know.
No, I do have a YouTube channel. I put out all my interviews and stuff.
So you have 29 plus 6 now. Sorry, I'm shutting up now because it's not like my one-to-one interview here. So yeah, please do talk over me. Yeah.
You were saying, Susanna, before I interrupted you?
No, it's okay. It's just all very interesting, as Elsa mentioned, that you managed to put all the things together. And some of the things that you mentioned was actually about language of your body. And, there are so many yes do and no do. And I remember I was a kid, I love this stuff, when your shoes facing that way, it means they're interested. If they're looking there, all those little tricks, and there are so many. You literally think like, oh my God, can I just be normal, or I have to be like this fake? And like you said, it's such a good, and I would say normal advice, just be yourself, but not too much maybe, because as you can see, I always do this, and I probably shouldn't be doing that, because
no, you should. Actually, it's a good thing to gesture.
It's just that's my way how I speak, even though I'm not from south of Italy. I speak fast, so I have to slow down, take a deep breath. There's so much advice, you never know how to choose what's relevant for you. So I think it's a good thing that you said there's so much bad advice out there, and you have to pick up what's valid for you to make the most of it. And just for everyone, maybe the one thing I have read, role play, it's something that you should practice, but maybe it's a good idea to get someone who understands you, not your friend, not your parents, maybe that's somebody who is in a job and gave you objective, maybe cold feedback. Listen, you're just speaking too much crap. You have to filter it out. Or
that's one thing. You could get feedback from another one, but also the fact that you're just saying it yourself, that will probably eliminate 80 to 90% of the things that aren't working. When I practice my own speeches, I can feel to a large degree what aren't working. Obviously, every now and then I do get training myself and coaching. Say, I want to ask you could be a little bit better here and change this thing. And then I get a new insight.
Do you record yourself? Because I record sometimes, and I realized my speech was aimed for 3 minutes, end up 10. So I had to eliminate some of the things to make it, short. Because I get too excited.
Say that again.
So if you record yourself as you practice your, like on the just video recorder, or just how do you time?
I don't. If I have a longer speech, I don't record myself on video. But I know how I sound because I've seen myself so much on shorter videos. And if I'm out doing a speaking job, I will typically record it myself and put it out there and see. But how I will typically practice is I will have pictures of the things I want to talk about. And then I'll sit down, I'll record it with sound. And then I will listen to it afterwards. And if it sounds interesting, it probably is. If it doesn't sound interesting, it probably isn't, right? So instead of me being too focused on my body language, because, I'm a human being too, like, oh man, why you do that thing over there, Asger, so then I just listen, and it's great. You can have it in the bus or in the car. You can listen to it. You can listen to it before you fall asleep. and you can visualize, and you can visualize how you want to do the things as well. So a great way is just put a picture up, because we think in pictures. Our brain is made for thinking in pictures. That's why if you have PowerPoints with loads of text, you kill your audience. They won't listen. But if you have a good picture, maybe a few bullet points, because we can understand a few bullet points, that's okay. Then we get them. But just too much text, it just kills it. So put up some pictures, do a drawing, and if you can put in a little emotion too, something you felt, because we think in pictures and emotions. Then you're like, oh yeah, and then you're like, I had that feeling. That's my first time hiring somebody. I was just, I was so nervous because this and this, and the client, the person I hired, he seemed really good, but I had a slight doubt, or whatever it is you want to share. See if you can put an emotion to it, because you become much more human, become much more interesting. So that's a great way to remember it, because we remember pictures and emotions much more than just words. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, I would say that's how I typically would do it, and then I would follow my structure, with the start, struggle, story, solution, sell, and I even use that in between the speeches. So let's say, for instance, there's a new topic inside the speech. I will then do the start again. I'll prep why is that a relevant topic. If you're talking about, I don't know, interviewing skills, you could have a part of the talk could be how to ask good questions. You got to nail this, because if you don't ask the right question, you're not going to get it. If you're just too nice, sit there and answer all the questions in the right way, you kind of come across as, whatever. So you want to prep every single topic once you go into that, and some struggles. So I always follow pretty much this formula throughout the entire talk. You can have shorter versions of it and longer. So the overall arch is the 5S, and then I have small 5S's in between. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense.
Good.
Have to prepare a written answer first for all of this. It's a lot of brainstorming, I would say.
You got to write it down, or what are you saying?
I just said that it's lots of brainstorming, all these new concepts. So I think first I actually have to think myself what I'm going to say, and then practice saying it.
That's true.
Changing my mind. Oh no, that's a bad idea. I have a better story to say. So for example, maybe you have this a lot. You keep changing, and instead of one story, you end up with 5 different stories. So you overthink. Does it happen to you a lot?
Oh yeah, sometimes you got to stop. In my last video I put out on LinkedIn, I did 5 takes, and I, at the moment we have quite a lot of Corona here. So my kids are not so much time in the kindergarten, and my oldest daughter is at home, but she was out with her mom, and I knew, I only have a few hours to do this. So I was like, okay, now I've done 5 takes. I don't think it's perfect, but you got to go with it. And I put it out there, and got some good feedback. But yeah, it's better to put it out there rather than trying to perfect it. I would say, the best thing is really get good at something for a while, and then once you're really good at that, you can implement a few new things and add that in, rather than changing all the time, because then you never really end up getting really good at anything, if that makes sense. So at a certain point, I say, this is your speech, practice that speech. You got that story, set it down, and like, okay, this is it. And then that's it. A lot of people, they spend out the last minute changing their content. At a certain point, so this is my content. It's time to practice the content now. Yeah, that's my advice on that, I would say. And it's hard because we want to give the best content possible. How about you, Stephen, or Fahad? You got any questions? Anything you want to know?
Just a reflection, really. I think something that was really powerful was your passion. When you started talking about the public speaking, you could see sort of the excitement there, and it's sort of genuine, and I think it's quite infectious as an audience member. I think you brought along on the journey with it. Yeah. Thanks.
And that's the thing, I would say. A lot of people, they say I got to get the energy from the audience, but no, that's not how it should be. You got to give the energy to the audience. You got to pace them. You got to give it to them. So you really want to educate your audience, If they're falling a little bit asleep, you got to be like, hey guys, man, are you wannabe speakers, or where are you at? You really want to take this in? And I will challenge them too. Say, you know, if I have an audience, you got to take notes. These notes could be life lessons that you could keep looking at. And I'll say, you know what, the first professional seminar I went to, I still have those notes. They're great notes. I look through them every now and then. You should be doing the same, having a library. I want you to work as hard as me. You know, so you can challenge them a little bit with that, right? So it kind of goes back to the concept of the job interview, asking questions. Yeah, but anyway, thank you a lot, Stephen. So find that passion burning inside you that you love. You got to think about, why do I love this topic? Why do these people really need my advice? And a lot of people struggle with the thing and say, oh, you know what? I don't know so much. Maybe they just read a book. You know what? And I struggle with this. And I think everybody struggles a little bit with this, unless you're Donald Trump. So, okay, I can say that now. So the thing once we have learned something, it for some reason we think it's super easy for the other people. You know, I used to, I've been teaching chemistry in high school. I did that for a few years. And I it's the easiest thing. How could that ever be a problem for anybody to understand this? But then I was thinking about it, you know, when I went to high school, you know what, Asger? I didn't get it the first time. You know, I was a normal student. You know, I had to work to get a good grade and to do all these things. And, you know, there were people way better than me. Like, so you know more than you think. So I'm just saying, if we tend to belittle ourselves, don't. You know some stuff that is valuable. And if they know the stuff, you know, it's always free. You can always leave. That's okay. You know, yeah. How about you, Fahad? You got anything for us, comment or two, maybe?
No, yeah, just really, really enjoyed it. Very beneficial. One thing actually I did want to ask around interviews, and you kind of touched on it, but obviously now in the space we're in, interviews are more than likely going to be kind of online, it's going to be video type stuff. Now, naturally, like Susanna mentioned, I like to see you. I'm quite animated, so I will move my hands a lot. And when you're in a face-to-face interview, it's less noticeable than if you're on camera, because on camera you've only got this small square. So obviously, if you are moving your hands around a lot and you know you're kind of moving a bit side to side, you know, or I don't know, in my head it feels like it can be quite distracting.
To get the hands up here?
Yeah, just kind of move, just swaying a little bit. So do you think now with video interviews kind of coming into play more, we kind of need to be a bit more conscious about how we're moving? Do you think maybe moving our hands around too much could be distracting?
No, I don't think so. It's quite rare, I'd say, too much gesturing happens. I mean, if it's out of fear, out of nerves, sure, that could be a little bit of a problem.
My camera's off, so you didn't actually just see how much my hands were moving.
No, but actually, you know, I talk
otherwise.
Yeah, but gesturing is typically a good thing, I would say. But again, you got to find your style, what you like. I gesture quite a lot. Other people, you know, there are people that are great storytellers. It's, you know, they're more subtle. Just, you know, bam, you know, just stand more still and just like, wow, what a story. You know, that's a style too. That's not my style. Doesn't mean it's better or worse. It's just me. You know, there are people that are just, you know, they're more introverted, more storyteller, and maybe they're better at that thing. So, but I would say, you know, I talked a lot about being natural and let things happen like they are. But every now and then, if you are in the camera, it can benefit putting up the hands here, because you get a little bit more energy to the camera. Maybe you can feel it, as if I'm just like this all the time. There is a little bit less energy in this. So if you take them up here every now and then, that's a little bit unnatural to have them up here in face height. But I would say that's one of the few times I actually deliberately think, okay, I got to put my hands up. But once they're here, I kind of, you know, let them do their thing. So yeah, that would be my advice on that. I don't know if that helped.
Yeah, no, that helped. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you so
But-
much, Asger. Thank you all so much for attending, and thank you, Asger. That was I took away lots, and I'm sure you guys did too. And I really appreciate that you took the time to give us a presentation at the Financial Advisor Mentorship. Thank you.